So we're only a few nights away from the Seder, and the Seder is the most beautiful night of the whole year. It's a time that really connects us to where we came from, to who we are. And it's a night that really the Jewish people have always celebrated in different ways. Not always have people been able to have matzah, have maror, but no matter where a Jew is in the world, no matter what's going on, the night of the Seder is a special night. Matter in Auschwitz, in Spain during the Inquisition, in the Crusades, the Jewish people, every place and every time that they've been everywhere, in all times of history, the night of the Seder is a special night. And there are many steps in the Seder, many parts of the Seder. And tonight I want to go over the Seder, the components of the Seder, and to see how the Seder helps us build our lives. Now, how the Seder helps us go to freedom and to build a luminous, beautiful home. The Seder is called the Seder of Pesach, which really in a way is a contradiction. Pesach means to jump, and Seder means order. And so, one message the Torah is telling us here is, yes, you have to live your life in an orderly way, but sometimes you gotta jump. Right? You can't just go on even the things you do in a regular way, even things you do every day the same, you do the same thing, like we just did Arvit. You shouldn't just do Arvit. You should jump. You should get into the Arvit in a way that there's some excitement there. It shouldn't be the same. Seder Shal Pesach. It's a lesson in life. Everything in life. Seder Shal Pesach means that all the things you do in life should have some magic in them, some excitement in them. It shouldn't just be you're just doing because you did it yesterday. There's another message here. We have a world that seems to function in a very clear order, right? But we also see in our lives things that don't fit in our life. They jump out of what we expect. Sometimes it's in a very negative way. Sometimes there's things that go on in our life, and the expression in Ivrit, Chaim B'Seret. Sometimes you feel like you're living in a movie, right? And so the message of the Pesach Seder is that even those things in our life that seem like have nothing to do with the plan, we're on a certain road, we're going a certain direction, all of a sudden it's, whoa, what is that? It's also part of the order of life. It's also part of what Hashem wants to bring us to. Even those things which seem to have no connection at all. There was Rabbi, I think he lives here, Rabbi Chaim Shushan. You know who he is? Crazy story. I think he was in 4th grade. He was very into basketball. And one of his friends says, we're not playing basketball today. I'm sorry, playing soccer. We're not playing soccer today. You know why? Because I have a big problem. We have to pray together today. Why? What's going on? He says, my mother's in the hospital. Oh, we should pray for her. What's going on? No, it's not so bad. She's having a baby. But it's really bad. Why is having a baby really bad? Because I have only sisters. I want that she should have this time a boy. But I'm afraid she might have another girl because she keeps on having girls. I have so many sisters. So I want you to come and, no, we're not going to recess. We're going to pray. It's going to be a boy. Okay, no problem. Chaim is a good friend. He sits down with his friend. They say, open their Tehillim. And they're saying Tehillim that his friend should have, his mother should have a boy. And as kids come into the class, they see them praying. Why are you guys praying? We're praying because his mother's in the hospital. Oh, no, she's going to give birth maybe to a girl. So they all join the prayers and all praying there should be a boy. The boy's father shows up after recess to the class and says, I have great news, my son. You have a new baby sister. All of a sudden the whole class like, oi, oi. And this Chaim, today is, I think he's a rabbi in here in LA, Rabbi Chaim Shushan. He said he was so upset because not only did he lose his game of soccer, which he loved, but he was hoping and praying for his friend and nothing. Hashem didn't answer his prayers. Fast forward a couple of years. This Chaim is trying to find his soulmate. And he's getting older. 20, turns to 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 6, 26, hike, hot, hike. No, there's no one. And then a shidduch comes up for him. Who does he end up marrying? That girl! That girl that he was praying it should be a boy. He's lucky it didn't turn into a boy because he ended up marrying that girl. So it shows us that even those things that it seemed to be Pesach, out of the order, not part of the plan, there's a Seder. And the Seder is towards Yerushalayim, towards Mashiach, towards your personal Mashiach, towards your personal goodness. There's a loving Father that is guiding the world, and He's guiding each of us towards our personal goodness, even though it may not seem that way. So I wanted to go over the items in the Seder and see how the Seder really brings us somewhere. One of the things that we have on the Seder is a Seder plate. The Seder plate has 6 items. The top right of the Seder plate, we have the zroa. The zroa is roasted, and it's commemoration for the Paschal sacrifice. And what do we use for the zroa? What item do we have in the Seder plate? Our custom is we have a chicken bone. Which part of the chicken? Chicken neck. Why the chicken neck? So some say because all animals, when they're offered as a sacrifice to Hashem, they're slaughtered by the neck. Therefore, we have the chicken neck because it's a commemoration for the sacrifices. But that itself has to be understood. Why indeed are all sacrifices need to be slaughtered by the neck? And the answer is this. There is a great distinction between the mind and the heart. The mind is always objective. What's the reality? What's the truth? The heart is more of a tumultuous, subjective world. And our hearts, our feelings, don't always lead us to the right place. Our feelings aren't always in check with the reality. The mind, it says in Tanya, is meant to control. The mind is meant to control the heart. The heart is sort of like the engine, and the mind is the steering wheel. That's how it's supposed to be. And the mind is supposed to control the heart. And when we have issues sometimes, it's because we let our emotions get the better of us, and we don't listen to the serene voice of the mind. But what happens is sometimes that between the head and the heart, what's in between? Between the head and the heart, there's the throat. And the throat represents spiritually that you know what's supposed to happen in your life, you know what you're supposed to do, and yet you resist and don't let it come into your heart. You know the way things are supposed to be. You know that you're planning. One day I'm going to do this because it's the right way to go, but you're not ready to go forward. Why aren't you going forward? What's holding you back? So that's the throat represents that there's a dissonance, there's a separation, there's a gap between what you know and what you feel in your heart. And the idea of the neck of the zroa is that we have to. Why do people make mistakes? Where mistakes come from? Mistakes come from the separation of the mind and the heart. That's where it comes from. So, what's the solution for mistakes? It's to take away the throat, to take away the separation in the heart and the mind. That's the idea of slaughtering the animals. There shouldn't be a separation. If you understand something to be the some way, if it makes sense, and the positive message your mind is giving you should go into your feelings and your heart, there shouldn't be a separation. All mistakes are because your thoughts are not going into your feelings. So therefore, the first item of the Seder plate is the zroa, to take away the separation of the heart and the mind. That's why we place this on the Seder plate on the right. Why the right? Elio Jun, Shalom Aleichem. Why do we put it on the right? Right has to do with chesed. Right means kindness. Right has to do with geula, with redemption, with freedom. What's the path to freedom? To take away the neck, to take away the separation between the way we think and the way we feel. That's why we put the zroa on the Seder plate, the top on the right. Then the next item we have on the Seder plate is the egg. Where is the egg placed? The egg is placed in the top left. And what does the egg represent? The egg commemorates the korban chagiga, the other sacrifice that was brought on Passover. But this egg, it says, is also commemoration for mourning. A mourner eats an egg. Why does a mourner eat an egg? To remind us that the world, even though you may seem you're on the top of the world one day, or you seem like on the bottom of the world one day, it's a wheel. The world is a wheel. And though you seem you're all the way in the bottom, you shouldn't feel arrogantly on the top. You shouldn't feel like a shmendrik when you're on the bottom, because there's a wheel. The wheel turns. And therefore that's the message of the round egg. So the Torah is telling us with the egg, don't get confused. But there's another message of the egg. The more an egg is cooked, unlike other food, when you cook something, what happens when you cook something? It gets softer. An egg, the more you cook the egg, the harder it gets. Yeah. So the Torah is telling us that when something comes your way, that you're cooking in something, you can see that you're totally enveloped by a big problem. The Torah is telling us you need to get stronger from it. The Torah is giving us a message. It's not an easy message to hear when you're in it, but this is reality. The reality is whatever can't break you, as they say in America, builds you. And nothing can really break you, because that's who you are. Because you're neshama, you're a Jew. That's the message of the egg. There's another message here of the egg. There are 4 categories in creation. There's an animate, there's a vegetation, there's an animal, and a human. Where does an egg come from? An egg comes from a chicken. A chicken is the animal. But the egg becomes something inanimate out of the chicken. So it comes from the higher category of the animal, and it descends to the lower category of inanimate. And yet, what's produced out of this? What's produced? My great-grandfather, his yard is actually tomorrow night. His name was Rabbi Mayar. Rabbi Mayar used to give the following analogy. The analogy is, a mother chicken sits on her eggs for 21 days. She takes care of them, she warms them, and finally, after the 21 days of taking care of her eggs, what does she do? She tells her children, she tells the eggs, my dear children, I've done all I could for you. It's now time for you guys to make your move. Take your head and hit as hard as you can against the wall. That's what the mother chicken says to the baby chickens. And some of the chickens, they listen to the mother, they bang their head against the wall. And some like, Mom, you can't be serious, as hard as I can against the wall, and my head against the wall, you meshuggah. And the ones who are ready to bang their head against the wall, those are the ones who come to life. So the Torah is telling us that there's a time of becoming inanimate, you feel completely opaque, you're completely insensitive, you feel jaded, you feel cold. The Torah says that that's where life comes from. Sometimes you go through a period of complete dead inside, and actually from that period becomes you emerge from there with the greatest life, like the egg. The chicken emerges from the egg. Even if you've fallen, you can grow. You can rise. So that's the message of the left side of the Seder plate. The egg, that the difficulties Hashem sends us are really meant to make us stronger. Then we continue on the Seder plate. What's the next item on the Seder plate? In the center of the Seder plate? Marar. What's marar? Marar means bitterness. It's about the bitterness of the exile. I heard, I don't know firsthand, but I heard that the Rebbe, when the Jews came out of Iran, came to New York, and the Rebbe made a whole operation to rescue 1,000 boys and girls from Iran when Khomeini came to power. I heard the Rebbe wanted to taste their marar. They wanted to have from their marar. They wanted to feel the pain of the Jews of Iran. They wanted to eat from their marar. So the marar represents the pain of the Jewish people. But why is it in the middle? Why is the marar in the middle? In Kabbalah, the right side has to do with kindness. The left side has to do with judgment. The marar here is in the middle. Why the middle? The answer is like this. Kindness could be very cold. Kindness could be very cold. You are a rich man, you have a lot of money, and say, you make a decision. I could give this out of feeling anything, I just give. I could give someone in a way that'll use the money in a way that'll hurt them. I just want to satisfy my conscience and let go of this money so I did my act of kindness. Then there's judgment. Judgment means to ignore the other person. Then there's a mixture of the two. Kindness is about me, I want to be kind. Gvura is about you don't deserve, think about you. Then there is a higher kind of kindness. It's called rachamim. Rachamim, where there's a combination. What's combination? It's not, I just want to give because I want to discharge my obligation. Rachamim means I feel where you are. I feel you. So it's not about me, and it's not only about you. So I feel where you are, and because I feel and empathize where you are, that's why I give. And so, going back to the guy who was going to use the money for drugs, the chesed thing is, here's $1. The gvura thing is, I'm not giving this guy $1. The rachamim thing is, come into my car for a second. I want to talk to you. You know, you could go somewhere in your life. You can go to rehab. You take the guy, and instead of giving him $1, you get him $20,000 to go to rehab because you enter their mind and you enter their place, and you feel so bad for them. You go beyond yourself and you bring them to a place that you would never. That's rachm. That's the maror. So actually, the bitterness of the maror is actually produces the greatest kind of feelings of rachmim, of Hashem's mercy. Under the zroa, what do we have under the zroa? Under the shank bone on the top right, what's underneath there? Anyone remember? Strike two, no? There are only 6 items, guys. Come on, you get 2 strikes. You got to, chareses. The charoset. Under the zroa, on the top right is the zroa, the shank bone. Underneath that is the chareses. What's the chareses? Chareses is a commemoration for the mortar the Jewish people had to make when they were in Egypt. But chareses, one of the items used in the chareses is apples. Why apples? It says that in Song of Songs, under the apple tree, I aroused you. Very good. What does that mean? It says that when Pharaoh came, and Pharaoh said, I'm going to kill all the Jewish boys, so Amram, the father of Moses, leader of the Jewish people, he's like, let's get divorced. Let's separate. What's the point of having babies? And they'll be thrown into the Nile. But his daughter Miriam says, you're worse than Pharaoh. Why? Why are you worse? Because, you want to check the door? I think someone's by the door. Because the Pharaoh, he only wanted to kill the Jewish boys. With your decision to separate from Mom, you're getting rid of the girls too. So Amram says, you're right. And because of his daughter, he got married. But what about everybody else? Everyone saw Amram, they also reunited with their wives. But still, there was a big problem, a big sense of why are we doing this? So what's unique about an apple among all trees? So Talmud says something fascinating. A tree has fruits, a tree has flower, a tree has leaves, a tree has branches. What do you need to have first? The leaves and the covering of the fruits, or the fruit first? You need to have the covering because without the covering of the fruit's going to get ruined, right? But the apple is unique. The apple first, the fruit grows, then the leaves go around the apple. First, the apple grows first. What does that mean? They told their husbands, you don't want to have children. They took them to the apple trees. What was the message? He's not there. It's okay. Okay, don't worry. Going to the apple trees means they were telling their husbands, don't wait until you see Hashem's protection. Have a little bit of trust in Hashem. Go forward first, and then we need to be fruitful, we need to have children, and Hashem's protection will come. Don't wait for the leaves to protect the fruit. First create the fruit. First go forward, and then you'll see Hashem's protection. That's the message of the chareses. That's the message of the apples. That when a person, what's the opposite of trusting in Hashem? Hey, what's the first rule in Fight Club? Anyone know? First rule in Fight Club? No one talks about Fight Club. Very good. What's the first rule in trusting in Hashem?
Don't talk about trusting in
Don't trust in anything besides Hashem. It's the first rule, trusting in Hashem. Now, what's the opposite of trusting in Hashem?
Trusting in other things besides Hashem.
The opposite of trusting in Hashem is to ask 2 questions. What will be? What's going to be? What's going to be? And why is this happening to me? The Hebrew words, ma yiyeh, what's going to be, and why are both those words are numerically equivalent to the word 75. 75 is also the numerical value of the word trusting in Hashem. Whoa. Either you're trusting in Hashem, it's one option in life, or you say, Lama, Maya. Those are 2 choices. And that's the antidote. The antidote for why. The antidote is what's going to be is I'm trusting in Hashem. I'm choosing. I'm choosing to trust in Hashem. And that's the message of the charoses. The charoses, we dip the maror in the charoses. The maror is the bitterness of the pain that we're experiencing. And what do we do with the maror? We dip it into charoses. Charoses is the apple, is a trust in Hashem. The antidote for the bitterness is trusting in Hashem. What's the next item we have in the Seder plate?
Karpas.
Very good. The karpas. Karpas, some people use celery, some people use an onion, some people use potatoes. You use something that grows in the ground. The Iranians have this custom of hitting each other with green onions, and no one has yet been able to explain it to anybody yet, but they just do it every year because we can. Never do them. Dayeno, don't ask. Anyway, so karpas is something that grows inside the ground. When God appeared to Abraham, he said to Abraham, your children will be like the stars in the sky. He said your children will be like the sky, like the dust of the earth. So Talmud says that when the Jewish people rise, they rise like the stars. When they fall like the earth. There's another meaning over here. The earth is the foundation of everything. The earth represents the foundation of everything. So Hashem is telling us with the karpas that grows in the ground that He is the foundation. He is as solid and more solid than the ground we stand on. We are an eternal people. Think about this for a second. Imagine. Sometimes you talk to people which aren't sometimes you talk to people who haven't really tasted any Torah, and you tell them, and you introduce yourself. Say, I am Shimshon. My father is Yosef. My grandfather is... And you talk to them about your family. And my father was a rabbi, and my grandfather was this. And then you say, by the way, and my great-great-grandfather was Abraham. And my great-great-grandmother was Sarah. And then you talk to this gentleman who you met who is not yet religious, and how about you? Who is your father? My father is this, my grandfather. Where are you from? And who was your great-great-grandfather? They don't get it. They don't right away say, oh yeah, my great-grandfather is Abraham too. They don't identify with that because it's a whole foreign thing. Is there another nation in the world that everyone knows? This is our father, this is our mother, this is where we all come from. Our great-great-grandfather is Abraham, our great-great-grandmother is Sarah. There's no other family, no other nation that has this story that we have. So this is the message of the karpas, which is in the ground. Hashem told the Jewish people, not now, He prophesied thousands of years ago, that the Jewish people are Am HaNetzach. They're an eternal nation. And just like the Western Wall, Jerusalem was destroyed 7 times. And yet, Hashem promised that the divine presence, the Shekhinah, will never leave the Western Wall. It's there, like the Jewish people. And so this is the message of the karpas, which is in the ground. Of to realize, just like the earth we stand on a rock solid faith in Hashem, who has always protected us, no matter what's going on. So think about this. We come from Abraham. Do you think your grandchildren will be Jewish? Think about it. We come from a rich golden chain. We come from Avraham Avinu. We have to realize who we are and where we come from, where we're going. During the Holocaust in Bergen-Belsen, there was a Hasidic Rebbe whose name was the Bluzhever Rebbe, Rabbi Shapiro, and he managed in Bergen-Belsen to make some kind of Seder. And word came out in Bergen-Belsen that there's a Seder in his barracks, and he managed somehow, it's another story in itself, to get a tiny piece of matzah. So people came to the Seder, and how did they have a Seder? How did they have 4 cups? They had 4 cups of leftover of the coffee that they gave them, whatever that was. And their tears, they had plenty of tears, they had plenty of bitter herbs. And what about the matzah? They had the matzah. And the Bluzhever Rebbe knew the whole Haggadah by heart. So you're reciting the Haggadah, and he gets up to the part of eating the matzah. And he's thinking, who should eat the matzah? Everyone's thinking he's the oldest. He's the one who has the matzah. He's the one who had sacrificed to get the matzah. He should eat the matzah. But he doesn't want to eat the matzah. He's holding on to the matzah and looking around, somebody should eat the matzah. There was one woman there who had already, her husband already been killed. And Mrs. Koshetsky. Mrs. Koshetsky says, Rabbi, could I please say something? She says, yes. He says, the whole point of the Seder, isn't it for the next generation? Isn't it l'man yidu deresechem? Isn't it in order that the future generation should know? We should tell the story to our children. There was one child, her child, who was the only child in Bergen-Belsen. Maybe he should have the matzah. He should have that because he's the next generation. He's going to grow. He's a future of the Jewish people. And he says he was very, his face, the Rebbe's face shined. Yes, of course. And interesting postscript to the story. The Blushver Rebbe survives Bergen-Belsen. Mrs. Koshetsky survives Bergen-Belsen. An idea comes up for her to marry someone. She lost her husband very young. She's a widow. Maybe she should meet somebody. So she didn't know who to ask about this. She felt very close to the Blushver Rebbe. The Blushver Rebbe, she knew him in Bergen-Belsen. He was a very holy person. She figured, I'll ask him. Do you know a guy, Yisrael Shapiro? Can you tell me about him? There's this guy came up from me, Yisrael Shapiro. She didn't know who the Blushver Rebbe's name was. She just know Yisrael Shapiro. Do you know anyone named Yisrael Shapiro? And he's like, yeah, I think you should meet him. And they went on a date, and yeah, he's Yisrael Shapiro. And they married. He said to her that the reason he wanted to marry her was because they're in Bergen-Belsen. They're in the middle of the deepest hell, deepest pain. And yet she's thinking about the future of the Jewish people. So what a vision. What an amazing vision. And that's why he and her, Baruch Hashem, got married after the war. Okay, the next item on the Seder plate is, again, Marer. On the bottom of the Seder plate, we have what's called chazeres, but it's also Marer. What do we do with that Marer? What do you use that Marer? Use the Marer for the korech. What's a korech? We have the matzah and the Marer together. What are you doing, the matzah and the Marer together? The Torah is telling us, after the Marer comes redemption. You think you're going to hell for no reason. You should know that after the Marer comes the matzah. Matzah represents redemption of the Jewish people. The Torah is telling us you should know what comes next after the Marer. After the Marer comes redemption. Think about it. The first day of Pesach is always the same as the day of the 9th of Av. The 9th of Av is always the same day as the first of Pesach. What does that mean? That the whole point of the 9th of Av, and after the 9th of Av, there's another story, another chapter. The chapter of redemption, of Mashiach. And then, after going through the items in the Seder, we're not going to have time tonight to go through all of them. Let's try to go through a few of the 15 steps of the Seder. There are 15 steps of the Seder, l'chaim. Actually, before the 15 steps of the Seder, the matzah, the 3 matzahs corresponding to Kohen, Levi, Yisrael, which makes up the word vessel. And we mention kli, vessel, a vessel for God's blessings. Also, the 3 matzahs are connected to our 3 patriarchs, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Different explanations about the matzah. But we say about the matzah, this is a matzah that our forefathers ate inside Egypt. Why did they eat matzah in Egypt? So some explain that the Egyptians, the Pharaoh, didn't want to spend too much food on the Jewish slaves. So what they give them? They give them matzah. Matzah is very filling. Little bit of food is very filling. It's great on your intestines, right? So give them matzah. So what's the point of eating the matzah? Simple, according to this explanation. The point of the matzah is, we're saying we ate this in Egypt, look what we have today. Everyone could look at their lives today and they know they have something today they didn't have before. Look at what Hashem has given you today we didn't have before. One of the most important things that brings God's blessing, people always ask the Rebbe, how do I bring God's blessings? It says about Naphtali, one of the tribes, it says, Naphtali svar ratzon umoli birchat Hashem. Naphtali is satisfied and he's full of blessings of God. The greatest way to bring blessing, as Rebbe writes in many letters, is gratitude. Expressing gratitude to Hashem, that's a very big way to open doors for blessing. There was long story short, there's a guy who was very wealthy, and he had this room in his mansion. He would go in every so often. No one could go in that room. What was in that room? The room was a mattress and tattered clothing that he kept from when he was poor living in the street. He said, I always want to remember what I have. He would go in that room, tattered, to go. I slept on a mattress. These are the clothing I wore. He put on the clothing, slept on the mattress to remember the gifts that Hashem gave him. That's what opens doors. By the way, it's a good thing. You know what they do at night of the Seder? We pick up the cup and we say, Vehi Shamda. This is what stood for us. Vehi is she. Who is the she that stood for us? So, of course, it's the Jewish mother. So that's a more of a homiletical interpretation. The simple meaning is our faith in Hashem, the promise of Hashem. But also, it's a good tonight, the night of the Seder, to give thanks to our children, to give thanks to our spouse, to give thanks to our parents, those who are blessed to have parents. It's a good night of the Seder, to give thanks to each other, because when you thank someone, you show appreciation to them, it gives them motivation, it makes them realize what they are able to achieve. It fortifies them with certain strength. We give someone gratitude, give some appreciation. So besides giving gratitude to Hashem, it's a good time to give gratitude to people in our lives. Okay, so then we begin the 15 steps of the Seder. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through all 15 tonight. But just, why 15? There are 15 steps of the Seder, just like God's name. One of God's names, Yud K, is equal to 15. There are 15 Shir HaMalot. There are 15 steps in the temple. So, the first of the 15 steps is, we make Kiddush. And after we make Kiddush, we lie down, we lean to show royalty, that we appreciate that Hashem took us out of Egypt, we're free. Why wine? Why wine? So wine is a unique thing. The older wine gets, the better it gets. The simple reason we have wine is because wine brings joy. Wine brings joy. But the deeper reason is that we have to realize that there's something we have this year that we didn't have last year. We have to ask ourselves, what do I have this year than I have last year? Why am I better this year? What gift do I have in my life as a result of this year? Hashem gave me another year of life. Where have I gone this year? And where do I still need to go? That's the idea of having wine. I'm a year older. There's something more that I received this year didn't have the year before. How did I grow? How did I change? What is the purpose of leaving Egypt? Where am I going to? We left Egypt, but where are we going? That's the idea of the wine. Another reason is, unlike all other trees, a grapevine is not a good shidduch. All other trees you could graft a orange and a lemon. You can't graft grapes. Grapes stay alone. Grapes will not mix with other fruits. So what do we call the grapes? We call them kiddush. We call them holy. We have to realize that what is holiness? Holiness is be Jewish, don't mix in with other nations. And also in yourself. Don't mix in with there are a lot of non-Jewish influences that creep into ourselves, through our phones, through all kinds of things. So the Torah says, you know what holiness is? Holiness is be who you are. You don't need the goyishka. You don't need to open a window to all the assimilation out there to be better. Your holiness, your goodness, your strength is that you're different and you're separate. That's your holiness. That's your strength. Not assimilation doesn't bring you anywhere. Your kedusha, your holiness is you're like the grapes that don't mix in. The next thing after kaddish is urchatz. Urchatz is funny. All the other 14 things at the Seder don't have an and. There's kaddish, urchatz, make kiddush and wash. Why does it have the letter the vav there and? It should, if it has letter vav, which means and, the connecting letter, then every step should have a connecting letter. And if none of the other steps have a connecting letter, why does this one have a connecting letter? So the answer is this.
We already had rachatz.
It should be rachatz. Now why is it urchatz?
Because we already had it.
Why? Very good. Why?
Well, we had it earlier. We washed for the carpet.
No. The first step is kiddush before you wash the carpets.
Oh.
But I'll tell you where you're going. I'll tell you what you're right.
Oh, we're going for the bread.
You think that in order to be holy, you have to first wash yourself from the negative. You'd think that in order to get it to any place, you have to let go of negative first. So the Torah is telling you the opposite. You know what will motivate you to wash yourself off from the negativity is realizing how special you are now. When you want your children to rise higher, you know what will make them rise higher? When they realize how special they are. No one becomes better. I am such a shalmazel. I am such a shlum. How do you say shalmazel in Farsi? Penelek, right? Penelek is a... No. Okay. So I'm such a... No one becomes better.
What's the question?
How do you know what Penelek? Penelek? No? I thought it means a shalmazel in Farsi. Yes, it's only Abayas and Yaz. No one else knows about it.
Maybe translate shlomazel.
Whatever.
Loser.
A loser. Either way, nobody becomes better because they feel like a loser. When you feel you're good and you feel kaddish, you feel you're special, that makes you wash what doesn't belong in your heart. Someone came to the Rebbe once. He told the Rebbe, this head of the yeshiva, I heard the story, he came to the Rebbe, he told the Rebbe, you're asking people to put on tefillin, you go in the street, put on tefillin with someone, the guy you're putting on tefillin with, maybe he's eating a ham sandwich. Why don't you tell him to put on the ham sandwich first and then put on tefillin? He told the Rebbe, it's like analogous, here show, it's analogous to telling someone, put on a tie and they're naked. Put on a tie. They don't have any clothing. That's what he told the Rebbe. And the way he heard the story, the Rebbe said to him, exactly. When you give someone a tie and they're naked, what happens? Like, this doesn't belong. I need to put clothing on. In a similar way, when someone does one mitzvah, a mitzvah brings another mitzvah. Mitzvah has this domino effect. A mitzvah will make another mitzvah. So Kaddish Urchatz, that specifically what brings you to wash yourself, it's when you add the mitzvah. And when you do something good, it will bring all the negativity away from you. When you realize the goodness inside, that's what connects you to Urchatz. Okay. We begin the Seder, we begin the Haggadah, and we say how terrible things were. We were slaves to Paro in Egypt, and then we talk about how Hashem took us out of Egypt. We start off with the negative. Why do we go to the negative? Because Hashem is telling us that no matter how difficult things are, no matter how far you are now, no matter how broken you are now, no matter everyone has their own stuff going on. But the Torah is telling us no matter how broken you are, you should realize that you can go out of Egypt. Just like we were having a terrible time then, and God took us out of Egypt, the message is very simple. Doesn't matter what's going on, Hashem will take you out of where you are. You achshav, this moment, you're not forced to be in any way. You're free. It's not just Hashem took us out of Egypt. It says right now you are free. Not just that Hashem made us free then, but you're who you are. You're free. You're not forced to be any other way. There was a guy, Chief Rabbi of England, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, shalom. He passed away. He passed away a good 5 years ago. So he when he was first making his steps in Judaism, he traveled to see Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, Rabbi J.B. Soloveitchik, and he asked him questions. He had a philosophy, and they told him, the one you really want to speak to is the Rebbe. You have questions, you want to speak to him. So he asked the Rebbe several questions. And after he asked the Rebbe several questions, he was interviewing different rabbis, different questions, and the Rebbe started asking him questions. So you're in Cambridge. What are you doing for Jewish life in Cambridge? So what are you doing for other Jews? He wanted to say, well, I'm not so religious myself. How am I supposed to go and impact other Jews? You have to, right? That's what he wanted to say. What am I doing for Jews? So he says, he's very polite. He has an Oxford English. He says, well, in the situation I find myself, Rebbe never interrupted people. Rebbe interrupted him. Rebbe says, a Jew is not found in a situation. A Jew puts themselves in the situation. And if you put yourself in one situation, you can put yourself in a different situation. That's the meaning of being free. Being free means that no matter what happened a moment ago, it does not doom you to the next moment. You're not stuck. This is also the response to the wicked son. The Torah says, what do you say to the wise son, the wicked son? The Torah says, the wicked son, we should say the one who was taunting you for keeping the Seder, says in the Torah, you should break his teeth. What do you mean break his teeth? There are many interpretations of what it means. One interpretation is this. The Hebrew word for wicked, Rasha, is an American equivalent to 570. The Hebrew word for Shina, for teeth, is 366. If you take 366 away from Rasha, what do you have? You have 204. 366 plus 204 is 570. So what is making this person a Rasha? What's making him wicked? He has a part, the most inanimate part of a person is their sharp teeth. They're having a jagged response to Judaism, something bothering them, but underneath that jagged, that dismissal, that rebellion, what's motivating that rebellion? What's motivating this dismissal of Judaism? It's their soul, not comfortable where it is. So on the Torah is saying, go beneath the teeth, you'll see there's a tzaddik there. 204 is a tzaddik. Take away the teeth, underneath the teeth is a tzaddik.
Doesn't it say blunt his teeth as opposed to, is there a difference? It's just translation?
There are many, many, many layers of what that sentence means. This is one of them. Blunt his teeth means take away the teeth, and you'll see that he's a tzaddik. So bottom line is like this. We're selling with the Seder, we have to go somewhere with the Seder. It has to take us somewhere. Let's take one more story, let you guys go. There was a Jew, ein gesund, he used to be chief rabbi of Israel. What's his name?
Lau.
Rabbi Lau, thank you. Good. Rabbi Lau was in his court. He ran a Jewish court. This guy said, "I'm Jewish," and he said, "Well, you have to bring proof you're Jewish." So I have two people to bring as proof. Two people came to the court. One of them says, I knew this guy since he's a baby. I was at his bris. I was at his circumcision. I know he's Jewish. I was at his bris. The second guy says, he was a Chabad guy. He says, I didn't know him. I knew his mother. His mother worked at a hospital, and she was a chain smoker. And in general, to get cigarettes in Russia during the harder times of Stalin, it's very hard. You get on the black market. It wasn't so simple to buy cigarettes. So she would get these cigarettes, and she was a chain smoker. But every night, she would take one cigarette out, and she would give it to me. So she would put it in a box, and she gave me, from the whole year, 365 cigarettes from the whole year of cigarettes, of not smoking one cigarette from one pack. And I would take the 365 cigarettes, and I would sell them in the black market. And with that, I would buy her matzahs. Rabbi Lau was completely blown away. He said, I need to call this guy's mother. He called up the mother, got through to her. He said, I keep Passover one day a year. You keep Passover every day a year is Passover. And that's really where we want to get to. There's one guy, you know what he did? He took the afikoman, the matzah, he put on his wall. He said, I don't want to forget the night of the Seder. I want to go somewhere. So that's really what we're supposed to do. I don't know if to put something on the wall, but we have to realize that the Seder is meant to bring us somewhere. Hashem gives another year, not just another year. There's some place Hashem wants to bring us this year we've never gone before. And we're headed towards Eretz Yisrael, we're headed towards Mashiach, and then personally, each of us is headed towards a personal geula, l'chaim, this Pesach should be a kosher and feilach on Pesach in all ways. And if you know a Jew who doesn't have a matzah yet, one of the best ways to become free from all limitations, to bring Hashem's blessing, is to help another Jew be free and to help them have a Passover Seder, to invite them to a Seder.